Hello, and welcome to the Marc Baxter Show, where empowerment is unlimited. Today we have an exciting guest for you. Before we get started on the guest, let's talk about a word: resilience. How resilient are you? The definition of resilience is to be bendable or flexible. My definition is to be able to endure hardship and still move forward toward the goal. Now, the easy way to be resilient and have success is to have a goal and also motivation. LeBron James was very resilient this past season. You all saw him. He won the NBA championship finally. During all the interviews, a lot of questions were asked. In specific, they asked him, why didn't you just settle after you got the biggest Nike contract ever and you got it right out of high school? After you led the Cleveland Cavaliers to a championship, although you didn't win, why didn't you just settle? You had to move to Miami to finally win your NBA championship. Well, LeBron James answered it during an interview. He said that he was not going to stop until he did the necessary things to become a great NBA legend. So something went off in my mind when I heard that, because I realized that that was his motivation. It's a great thing today, y'all. I got someone very local that's been just as, if not more resilient than LeBron James. So without further ado, we're going to welcome the Honorable Lori Dumas-Brooks to the Marc Baxter Show. I want to formally welcome the Honorable Lori Dumas-Brooks to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Sure, absolutely. In saying your name, I can't help to notice that I have to say the word honorable. Why don't you tell the audience, why is the word honorable mentioned before your name is mentioned?
Honorable denotes the esteemed position that a person is in. It's not just for judges, it's for high-ranking officials as well. And people use it to really kind of set the person apart, because people who have positions such as mine and political figures, are really supposed to be respected in their craft, as well as honorable, if you will, in their lifestyle.
That's pretty impressive. Now, growing up, just thinking and hearing people talk to me, they always used to try to motivate me and say, and you're probably a part of this as well, they'll say, you can be all you can be. Get your education. You can be a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, or anything you want to be. But they never mentioned judge, almost as if it was unattainable. So here you are as a judge. How did you achieve such a prestigious position?
Well, actually, it's not something that I really wanted to do. It never crossed my mind. Just like you said, people never talk about becoming a judge, or they didn't, 20, 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. That just wasn't one of the top 5, if you will. And the reason is because a lot of people don't even think about judges until they have to stand in front of one.
Right.
So, that's the time when people are like, oh, right, a judge does this, a judge does that. But it wasn't until I actually became a lawyer and stood in front of many judges that I decided that I really needed to be a part of the solution. There were things that I saw that I really didn't like. And so I decided that the best way to change the things that I thought were a little shaky was to actually become a judge myself. It wasn't the career path that I started out in, even though I started out in the law. Mm-hmm. It was just something that kind of came about based upon the fact that I was already an attorney.
That's great. And also what you confirmed is during the introduction when I said it's much easier to be resilient when you have a goal as well as motivation. So your motivation was you wanted to be a part of the solution, and your goal was you wanted to become a judge. That's good stuff. Okay, venture with me.
Okay.
We're going to go back to your neighborhood growing up. So we're there now. We're looking around. We see familiar faces, familiar landmarks. So the question is, would you say that you are a product of your environment?
I would say yes,
Okay.
because although I grew up in a single family household,
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with a very strong mother who
Okay.
had very strong work ethic, was very serious about education,
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, so were most of the other parents in the neighborhood, that
Okay.
I grew up in. Now, the neighborhood has changed,
Right.
of course, but for the most part, even though I grew up in West Oak Lane, which is not the suburbs, people were still at that time into hard work, making sure that their children were disciplined, and making sure that their children went to school. So I can
Okay.
honestly say that yes, I am a product of my environment.
And I'm sure you've made your environment very proud, and I'm sure you'll continue to make them proud. Good for you. All right, now as a judge, I know there's different type of cases that different judges rule over. So what specifically do you rule over in this form of cases?
I have the distinct honor of presiding over cases involving juveniles who commit crimes. So I have cases that range from, school fights and vandalism all the way up to murder.
Wow.
The cases that I hear on a daily basis involve children between the ages of 10 to 21, believe it or not, because if a young person is arrested at 17, even though they may still be in the system at 21, they're still considered to be juveniles.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's, on a daily basis, I mean, there could be a mixture of, drugs, rapes, fights, murder. They're just, unfortunately, the crimes that are committed by children are some of the same crimes, if not all of the same crimes that are committed by adults.
Wow. That must be a humbling experience to rule over such delicate situations.
It's absolutely humbling to be given the opportunity to touch people's lives in the way that I do. I never in my wildest imagination thought that I would have so many lives in my hands at any given time. So it is very humbling, and it's humbling because too often, judges don't view it as a humbling experience, and it
Right.
kind of puts some people in kind of the position of God, which could never happen,
Okay.
but some people don't really understand that. And the power that we have in just the stroke of a pen can take the freedom of a child or an adult away forever.
Wow.
I can remove children from their parents. I can remove children from their environments. I can order children to do just about anything that I feel is necessary in order to help them to grow and develop. But then also with that, I can also order parents to do certain things, or their rights to parent that child can be taken away. And quickly, through a process, of course.
Right. Right.
But I have that power. And so I have to be mindful that this is just a ministry. This is something that I have been, a task that I've been given to do. And not something to puff myself up,
Right.
but something to just help
Right.
where help is needed.
Such a huge responsibility. Now, does your job motivate you?
It does, and what motivates me, I think what motivates me the most is when I see the need for so much of what I have to give, meaning my time, my hard work, my thought process as it comes into play with deciding cases. Our people that come into these doors have so many needs, and I guess it's just a part of who I am. I like to help, I like to meet needs, and so that in itself motivates me every day to come through these doors, understanding that the people that are going to come in front of me are going to need me to help them to do something, and that in itself is my motivator.
Nice. Great. It's always good when you can get motivated by what you do for a living. It's a win-win situation. Now, who or what is Lori's biggest inspiration in life?
Well, I would have to say it's my mom. She recently passed, so we
I'm
just
sorry to hear
actually buried her in April. She was 80, but my mom was tough. She was my biggest cheerleader, and she made sure that whatever she needed to do, not just myself, but my siblings as well, that we had the opportunities to do well,
Right.
to be successful. We didn't have much growing up. We didn't have the latest, gear and things like that. However, we always had a safe home. We had clothes on our back, and we had her foot on our backs to make sure that we were doing what we needed to do. So it would have to be my mom. Single parent who went back to school later in life, became a teacher in her 40s maybe, and just to watch her overcome her own obstacles, raise kids on her own, and then still able to have her own career after we were already on our way, was really an inspiration to me.
Wow, that's truly heartfelt, and I'm sure she's looking down on you, smiling and gleaming. So that's a great thing. We're going to shift gears a bit.
Okay.
Now, what is it possible to have for any of our audience that's watching? Is it possible to have fears and insecurities, but to still obtain a high level of success?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know many people who don't have some fear or some insecurity about something. I think that a lot of us operate in spite of our fears and insecurities, and they're not crippling. Some people are not able to do that, but there are a lot of people. I think that behind every successful person, that there are some fears and insecurities, which in itself, they may motivate that person's success, because they're trying hard to overcome those fears and insecurities, which pushes them even harder to meet their goals.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And in the first episode of the Marc Baxter Show, we talked about problems, strengths, and weaknesses. And we talked about how in society everyone wants to promote their strengths because they want everyone to look at them in such a high light. But ultimately, growth is only in embracing your weaknesses and your problems, because you have so far to grow and build upon. So that's what I encourage others to embrace and to work on. So it's good to hear you saying that. And oftentimes people are motivated in light of their fears or insecurities to help them achieve a high level of success. So that's great to hear you say that. All right, so it's definitely possible to have fears and insecurities and achieve a high level of success. So specifically, what are you afraid of?
Wow. Well, I'm afraid of a lot of things, but I think that as it relates to life in general, and we're talking about career and things of that nature, I would say that my biggest fear is in not doing all that I can do, and not really completing the project. And I never want to leave, or when I do leave, the earth, I do want my work to be done, and to be complete. So I'm always trying to do more and more and more and more, just to make sure that I have everything done before my name is called.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Now, I want you to fill in the blanks.
Okay.
All right? If I had done blank, I would be a better blank.
I think that if I had exercised more patience throughout my journey, I think that I would be a better everything. A better judge, a better woman, a better mom. Sometimes you get caught up in wanting things too quickly. And in doing that, in any situation, you make mistakes. And I do realize that life is full of mistakes. But, and you build on those mistakes and you grow from those mistakes. But I think that if I were a little more patient and kind of thought things out a little better, that my life would have been my roles would have been clearer and more defined, and the end result may have been a little bit better, because I wouldn't have all of the junk carrying with me. And still I still think I'm a great mom, I still think I'm a great judge, but the baggage would have been a little lighter.
Understandable.
So,
totally.
yeah.
And then on the Marc Baxter Show, we often talk about patience as being the one virtue that it gives you whatever you wanted initially, except for it's just more impactful and more better. Like, it only gets better with time. So it's interesting to hear you say that. Okay, are goals important to you?
Goals are very important. I think without goals, how do you grow? How do you achieve? How do you strive? without goals, you have nothing to reach for, nothing to attain.
Mm-hmm.
So goals are extremely important, and I think that people who say they don't have goals are lost.
Mm.
Lost.
Lost. Wow.
Lost.
Wow, that's serious. So when is it okay to stop making goals?
Never.
Never.
Never. I mean, your goals can be from something very minor
Mm-hmm.
to something very major and life-changing. You know, I think sometimes people get afraid when they hear the word goal. They think it has to be something big.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but a goal could be something, you know, concerning your health and
Mm-hmm.
making sure, you know, setting a goal that you're going to, you know, to take better care of your body and your mind. A goal could be, you know, something as simple as becoming more organized in your life. It doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, something that is earth-shattering.
Right.
So I think that you never stop setting goals for yourself because you stop growing if you
Right.
stop setting goals.
Right.
You stop change. And change, lots of times change, even though it's viewed as negative, change is good.
Right.
And in order to change, I believe, and in order to grow or to continue growing, you have to continue to set goals.
Interesting. And one point you made is that oftentimes people get a little fearful when it comes to making goals and things. And one thing, hopefully the audience is listening because you're giving them some great information, is one key thing to making goals is to make sure that they are attainable.
Sure.
You know, because if you make unattainable these big elaborate goals that you can't achieve, then of course you're going to get discouraged and get fearful from continuing to make goals. But I think if you make them reasonable and attainable, as you've done in your life, because obviously you've had a lot of success, and I think more people should follow suit and do the same thing. Okay, all right. Now let's explore your life a bit. Just think back and think back to a defining moment in your life that could have altered the total course of your life had you made a different decision. What would you say?
Well, I always wanted to be a singer. So, and but for, you know, my mom with her foot on my back, you know, saying, you know, no, because I had the opportunity before I went to college to kind of hang out there with a band that was, you know, I thought was going somewhere. And I think that, you know, that, I'm sure there were other things, but I really think back to that time when, you know, I wanted to be this, you know, superstar. And clearly my life would have been much different than it is now.
I suppose so.
If I would have taken that route. Somehow I don't think I would have become that superstar that I thought I would have become, and life would have just been really, really different.
Okay.
Different. Yes.
Okay. In 3 words, give us a formula for success.
I'd have to use the words that I used even as a teenager in my yearbook, what I would have what I've tried to embrace, which is just do it.
Just do it. Wow.
Just do it. You know, I realize that it's the Nike logo from way back when, but it's something that I kind of tucked away. People talk a lot. People procrastinate a lot. And even this could also come with my impatience. You know, I'm constantly saying, just do it. You know, we don't have to talk about it. You know, we don't have to make a big show about it. Just do it. And I think that, you know, if you apply that to your life and to your goals, you won't let the obstacles and the naysayers and anything that comes in the way of you moving forward stand in your way. Just do it.
That's great. I mean, it doesn't get any, you know, self-explanatory than that. Just do it. You
Just
know,
do it.
That's amazing. Because the logo for our show, and when we, you know, dismiss the show, oftentimes we say just go. Yeah. So that's real
Same
interesting.
thing.
Absolutely.
Same thing.
And finally, one last question, and you touched on it before earlier in the interview when you said that when it's all said and done, you want your work to be complete. That's one of your fears, not being able to complete your work.
Right.
So when it's all said and done, you know, how do you want to be remembered ultimately?
I would like to be remembered as a person who never gave up, who always tried, wasn't perfect, but that gave everything that she had to make sure that whatever task that she was given, she did to the best of her ability. And it was more than likely for the good of her fellow man.
That's very commendable, Lori, and you've been a great interview. I'm sure the audience will definitely appreciate you. You gave some great insights, something that we all can follow. The pleasure is all mine, and continued success in the future.
Thank you so much, and the same to you.
Thank you. Again, I want to thank the Honorable Lori Dumas-Brooks for a tremendous interview. It was very insightful. Before we leave you, I just want to let you know that the verdicts are in. On the first charge of self-doubt, the verdict is innocent. You're all innocent to forego doubting yourself. It's no longer allowed. This is what self-doubt does. It doesn't even allow you to perform adequately. We have to perform adequately to give us a fair measure of where we truly stand. When you doubt yourself, it hinders your ability to go all in. So you're no longer allowed to doubt yourself anymore. All you can do is what you can do anyway. So is no need for doubt, because the performance is what you can do, and that's what you need to see in order to know whether you have to do better or what you have to change. Self-doubt is out the window. The second charge of caring about other people's perception of you, the verdict is innocent. You're totally free to ignore people's perceptions. It adds nothing to the solution. Perception will only hinder your performance and make you think of other things that have nothing to do with you being resilient and accomplishing your goals, as the Honorable Lori Dumas talked about. The third charge of failure or quitting, the verdict is guilty. You're no longer allowed to fail or quit. In fact, failure is a permitted response. You have to allow yourself to fail, and you have to work very, very hard to quit. It's no longer allowed. You heard it right here on the Marc Baxter Show, where empowerment is unlimited. The jury and the court is adjourned.